Demon Slayer Season 3 introduces us to the Mist Hashira, Muichiro Tokito, and fans have asked what this character's deal is, so let's go into his full backstory, and beware, there are some spoilers from the Demon Slayer manga, and also I think you should bring along some tissues, because this one, it's a tearjerker, I'm not gonna lie, it's really sad. So the story of Muichiro Tokito actually begins 500 years ago with the birth of the original Sunbreath user and his twin brother, a story that we've already told on the channel in a pair of videos that you can find in this video's end screen if you want to go watch that and learn about the past. To make a long story short though, the original Sunbreath user was so amazing that his brother actually ended up leaving his family behind to go and join him on his Demon Slayer journey. And when he does this, he actually leaves behind a wife and 2 children that it seems like he never sees again. Now eventually Upper Moon 1 is turned into a demon and years go by, and Muzan and Upper Moon 1 start to kill everyone who even knew about the original Sunbreath user or saw his techniques. However, Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1, never hunts down his wife and children over the generations. Maybe he spared them on purpose, or maybe he completely forgot about them. However, over the generations, this family line continues, with the name at some point changing from Sugikuni to the Tokito family. Muichiro, just like the original Sun and Moon brothers, is one of a pair of twins, and he has a twin brother named Yuichiro, who he was raised with, and the two had many happy days. And we actually even see a little bit of this teased in the Demon Slayer Season 3 ending song. Now, as far as the Tokito family goes, their family wasn't one of the battle families who prided themselves in staying strong and raising swordsmen like the Rengoku family. In fact, Tokito's father was a simple woodcutter who actually reminds Muichiro a lot of Tanjiro because the two had the same fiery red eyes. And this is likely because in Demon Slayer, families who work with fire like the Kamado family who collected charcoal are blessed with children that are known in the world as children of brightness or children of fire, which is a sort of blessing that can be passed down or earned by people in Demon Slayer. Now it's true that there were no swordsmen in the family, however eventually Ubuyashiki and the Demon Slayer Corps tracked Muichiro and his family down because they found out about his lineage and ties to the original Sunbreath user. So naturally they wanted to train the two brothers up to be demon slayers, believing that they'd have some latent potential that others didn't. However, both of their parents who had these secret meetings never had any interest in the two young Tokito brothers leaving their carefree life, and it was the parents' belief that the two young boys would want nothing to do with the life or death battles of the Demon Slayer Corps, preferring to take after their parents. Now this is where in any other universe, their story would have ended, allowed to live a peaceful and happy existence out in the countryside. However, we know how this world goes, and tragedy is never far. The weather in the region began to get colder as the years went by. However, every year until he couldn't any longer because of his own sickness, Ubuyashiki and his 2 assistants would visit the Tokito household to just check in on this prestigious family and make sure that they didn't want to join the cause as the boys grew older and older. However, even these yearly visits couldn't prevent what was coming. Doing everything that she could for her children, Tokito's mother started to catch a cold in this rainy season. It started like any other cold, with the coughs and the complaints of a sore throat, but eventually her temperature began to rise, and she needed to be cared for through certain hours of the day because she couldn't stay out of bed for very long. For some reason, this cold was different from others, and unfortunately, as it developed, it became full-on bronchitis, which is a viral infection found in the lungs and your airways that can cause them to swell and even fill with mucus and liquid. Unfortunately, the story of Demon Slayer takes place in the past, before there were over-the-counter medications that could really make a difference here. However, not being one to give up, Tokito's dad told the boys to gather around their mother and take care of her while he made the journey out to go get medicinal herbs that he knew would potentially save his wife's life. And as he went on his journey, the 2 boys took turns every 30 minutes replacing the rag on their mother's head and feeding her small amounts of water or soft food. The hours went by, but the 2 never doubted that their father would return. However, a storm raged on viciously outside of their small home, battering the windows and the roof of their 1-story dwelling with a big icy chill and heavy rains. Now this could have been much worse if this wasn't a family of woodcutters. However, with their firewood and continuous teamwork, the boys successfully cared for their mother all night, undisturbed by the rain. However, when the storm had passed and it seemed like they were in the clear, something was still wrong. Muichiro's father had never returned. The older brother Yuichiro eventually decided to go out and search for their father, leaving Muichiro with their mother. And Yuichiro did find what he was looking for when he stumbled upon his father, who had fallen off a cliffside while looking for those herbs and sadly lost his life. This broke Yuichiro, and it had a drastic impact on his personality, which was only further changed once their mother's condition worsened, and she, like the father, passed away as well, leaving the two boys alone in the mountains with only each other at the age of 10. The two were raised well by their parents and still knew how to eke out a living in these mountains, so after these events and all of the tears were shed, the Tokito siblings themselves became woodcutters and would cut and sell wood to be able to afford food. But Yuichiro, the older sibling, became a rather angry individual during this time who said compassion is useless. Doing something good for someone else is only asking for trouble to find you, and it won't do you any good in the end. However, Muichiro, the younger brother, argues back, saying that father always said doing good things for others will come back to help you. A quote that we saw Tanjiro say to Muichiro in episode 3 that started to peel back the layers on top of these memories for the Mist Hashira. Yuichiro tells his younger brother that their father was stupid for going out to get those herbs, because if he didn't, at least they'd still have one parent left. But Muichiro can't believe his brother's words and says the opposite is true. As these days went on, it was like a living hell for Muichiro, who felt like his brother couldn't stand him, as his brother would repeatedly tell Muichiro that the character for Mu in his name was the same as the characters in the word invalid and ineffective, a rather easy way for him to put his brother down. However, the day came where fate would start to push the two boys away from this mountain. Ubuyashiki's wife, Amane, started to make the trip instead of her husband because his sickness from being related to Muzan had started to spread so much that he wasn't able to make the journey. And for the first time, the two boys actually heard the story of their past, as Amane told them all about their lineage with the first sun breath user, and telling the boys that they might actually be capable of using the sun breath if they trained. However, no matter how much hope this gave Muichiro, who wanted to join the demon slayers to save everyone who's been suffering because of the demons, this infuriated Yuichiro, who reminded his brother that helping other people is only asking for trouble. And he screams that a boy who can't even cook rice can't save someone else, and that helping others is only something that the chosen ones can do. That people like these two brothers apparently just have to die like dogs out in the mountain, because after all, Yuichiro says that's what their parents did. Eventually, the brothers would stop speaking entirely after this fight, but that didn't keep Amane from making the journey to their home over and over. And each time, Amane was sent away very rudely by the older Tokito brother, who even caused a fight with his younger brother once when he threw water all over Ubuyashiki's wife, making it even more tense in the household as the year grew hotter and the summer days seemed to grow even longer, leading to scorching hot nights in a home that was made before air conditioning was even invented. As the cicadas buzzed and the crickets played their song, night fell on the Tokito household on one such evening. However, as the brothers were resting, an unlikely guest made its way into their home. It was a demon that spotted the sleeping brothers and instantly went on the attack, hitting Yuichiro right in his arm with a slashing move that completely blew the arm off, as he screamed to the brothers to stop making noise and stop trying to plead for their lives, because poor woodcutters like them have no right to beg for something so small, that whether or not they existed, no one would notice or care, so they should just accept their bad luck and become this demon's food. But at that moment, something snapped inside of Muichiro as he held his brother in his arms, who was cowering in fear and now missing an arm. Inside Muichiro's soul, it was like everything was bubbled up into a small air balloon. All the stresses and pain that he experienced so far were getting slowly tucked away in a small place in his heart that he pushed further and further. But when this demon attacks, that air bubble pops. From it spews an infinite mist of rage that quickly filled Tokito's body to the brim with power that he'd never felt before. And in his blind rage, eyes whiting out due to the sheer shock, Muichiro screams into the night and his mind goes blank. An undetermined amount of time goes by, and we see Muichiro finally coming to his senses, standing outside in a field near his house with an axe in one hand and a massive mallet in another. Breathing intensely as his body stung all over from the plethora of wounds the boy took after his outburst. From Tokito's perspective, he looked down and he could see the demon that he was just sitting in front of, but now instead of being this amazing threatening force that scared him and his brother, the demon was pathetic. Now it was only a shell of what it looked like earlier. It seemed like after a long, bloody, grueling, and intense battle, Muichiro used every tool in and around the young boy's home to battle this demon, with giant shears, farming tools, a pitchfork, and several large wood stakes all plugged into its body, holding it onto the ground. Most strikingly, the demon's head was nowhere to be seen, as it seemed like Tokito had used 3 large boulders as a weapon that he dropped on the demon's head, completely crushing it. But even still, none of this was enough to kill the demon, letting us know that this might have actually been a rather powerful one when you consider its ability to survive without its head. However, as night ended and the sun came up, the demon finally crumbled away, meaning somehow Muichiro had done it. He won against a demon all on his own without a Nichirin Blade. But it's at that point where the adrenaline began to fade away, and Muichiro found himself unable to really move all that much, as he dragged himself back into his small home, taking hours to finally make it back inside. As Muichiro climbed in through a hole in their front wall, he could see that his brother was actually still alive, albeit barely, and Yuichiro, upon seeing that his younger brother actually survived his fight with the demon, starts saying a prayer, saying, "Please, gods, please spare my little brother. Unlike me, he's a really nice kid. He wants to be useful, and I was the one who always got in his way. And that means that I'm the only bad one here. That means that if you're going to give out some sort of punishment to our family for something that we might have done in the past, please just be me that's punished here. But let my brother survive." And as Muichiro reaches for his brother's hand, his brother apologizes for making fun of his name. And he tells Muichiro that the actual meaning behind his name this entire time isn't that Mu stands for ineffective or invalid, and that instead, the letters for Mu were taken from the Japanese word Mugen, which stands for infinity. So in reality, the Mu in Muichiro's name is actually the characters for the in infinity. Because like Muichiro's parents, Yuichiro believed that his brother had infinite potential. After passing out due to his injuries, the trauma of this entire situation truly got to Muichiro, who completely lost his memories of these events and even who he was or what his name was. But despite forgetting his brother and his family, Muichiro loved his brother so much that when he developed a new personality without his memories, his personality was exactly like how we saw Muichiro's brother from during the time where they lived together, which means that until he regains his memories, Tokito was effectively taking his brother's place in the world by using the wrong personality. But you could see why manga readers smiled at anime onlys who said that they hated Tokito and his personality, because little did they know the sad story behind it and how the character will ultimately change. Remembering the story is a large part of what makes Muichiro Tokito who he is today, and after being taken in by Ubuyashiki, Muichiro recovers from his injuries and quickly after begins training to learn how to use the sword. And the thing is, he's actually an instant prodigy. At the age of 12, 2 months after picking up a sword for the first time, Muichiro had ascended to the rank of Hashira, absolutely astounding all of his Hashira peers with his talent. And now in Demon Slayer Season 3, Muichiro faces off against Gyoko, but unlocking these memories will have a bigger part to play in the story, as it leads to one of the most important power-ups that we see in the entire Kimetsu no Yaiba anime and manga, which is the Demon Slayer marks.